Hey now, welcome to the Dirty Side of the Track, America's leading Formula One podcast. I'm Brian, that's Rob. He's on assignment, not for Formula One, but for work. Thanks for joining from the hotel, Rob. I'm excited to talk about the Italian Grand Prix with you.
I'm apparently a stone's throw from where you grew up then. I'm down here in Clearwater, Florida for my work conference this week, and thankfully all the flights were on time, so I was able to watch the race on the flight and then jump on now before my wonderful week of work begins.
Nice. Well, I'm happy you joined, and I'm happy you got to see the race. We'll talk about it here in a second's time. I was a little nervous for some reason we were going to have a snoozer, and while it wasn't super riveting through the middle, I thought it was all right. I thought it was good. It was an F1 race. It's better than not having it.
I mean, the guy on the flight from Washington to Tampa, he fell asleep the moment they closed the door on the plane, and he woke up the moment we landed. His flight lasted 2 seconds. I was worried that I was going to join him and fall asleep, but no, there was enough in there to keep the miles flying by out the window and me interested in the race. So yeah, like I think a bit like last time, not a banger, something to talk about at least, not a snooze fest either. So
Well, and we
should
definitely
we?
have a little McLaren discussion based on some IMs that we need to go
We
into.
do,
Yeah.
we do. So should we do our normal of hit the news and social, hit your video vault entries that you found, and then pick the bones out of the race, but
Let's do it.
not do a preview because we've actually got a week off.
Sounds good. Let's do it. Let's do
So
it.
okay, news and social. We had a big announcement from Cadillac where they announced Checo and Valtteri for next year. Well, you can't keep them out of the news this week either because they've announced that Colton Herta has been made their Cadillac test driver, not reserve driver, but test driver. And there's a lot of rumors now that will pave his way into F2. I think he might still need to get some super license points before he could take an F1 spot. So assume that's why all the rumors around F2 are doing the rounds.
I would think so. I mean, yeah, you definitely need super license points, and it's a great opportunity to do that. And of course, an American. So we've always heard the rumor of finding an American for the team. There's one, and get him ready for what may come in the future. Obviously, Valtteri and Checo have contracts, but as you and I have learned and discussed, those aren't always as binding as one might think. But let's hope that if there's a day where maybe it's a Valtteri Colton team, I would be all right with that.
Yeah, and definitely. Little bit of silly news that just did the rounds, but we missed it because we recorded so fast last week that good old Hajar broke his trophy in Zandvoort. So they are going to send him a replacement trophy, being as it was his first ever podium. I don't think they're getting the super glue out and sticking his original one together. They're going to send him a brand new trophy.
I mean, we talked about this during the week. He didn't do anything crazy. It wasn't like he dropped it or put it down aggressively. He put it down fairly normally onto concrete, but put it down and the thing just snapped. And his face, when he was holding the top half, his face was priceless.
Oh, I know. Yeah, like you say, he didn't mean to break it. Someone who may have meant to break the internet because of the ridiculous things they came out instead this week was our good old friend Stefano over at F1. What's his last name again? Domenicali, Domin something.
Dominicali, but all right. That's how the
That's the one,
Americans would say it.
Domenicali.
Yeah.
He came out. I didn't actually see this, so apologies if I'm just going for the clickbait and taking the headline and he's been misquoted. But all the news outlets ran with the sound bites of his interview, which were that he wants to scrap free practice, he wants to run reverse grids, and that apparently youngsters are demanding shorter races because they're not watching it live. They're consuming all their F1 through highlights packages. So that probably points to the races being too long. Um, what are you talking about? This was just utter noise to me because it's like, let's go in reverse order because obviously the last thing about this shorter race is the most ridiculous one. I grew up watching highlights of football or soccer, as you would call it, on a Saturday night program called Match of the Day, where all of the day's games were condensed into 10-minute highlight reels. I don't want games to be 10 minutes long. It's just, I'm busy, I'm out. They weren't all on TV anyway, and the easiest way to consume it was through highlights. That's what highlights exist for. F1, not everybody can afford a subscription to whatever TV channel or package or F1 TV they want to watch it on. So guess what? Younger folk with maybe not as much disposable income, F1.com, free highlights, catch up on it there. Also, young people are busier than you and I, Brian. We have nothing to do with our old lives now. They're young, free, single, out there doing things. They might miss the race because it's stupid to clock in the morning, depending on where you are in the world. I don't know. I'm going to get off my rant now, Brian, because this is just ridiculous. We need shorter races for more excitement. Cars can't overtake. That's the reason. Whether they're a sprint race, whether they're 3 laps long, you don't make the cars smaller and nimble and let them overtake. It don't matter how long you make the race. End of rant.
I mean, I totally agree. A couple things. First of all, we just had the world's fastest F1 race today. I wouldn't say it was with a bumper crop of overtakes. We have stuff to talk about, but we literally had the fastest race in the history of F1. And I'm not going to say that that was the best race I've ever seen. And I know he means shorter, not like the shortest of them. You don't have authors write Cliff's Notes. You have them write books. You create Cliff's Notes from the books. You don't have highlight packages of races that are just the highlights. You need something to highlight from, about. I thought that was dumb as well. That was a get off my lawn moment for me. I didn't get it. Reverse grids. I mean, come on now. It's like I struggle a lot with this whole thing, and I think it was a little bit of like clickbait, a little bit of let's talk about it. But yeah, I don't think anything will come of that.
Yeah, I hope not. But what will come of things is more trips to Monaco after it got extended to 2035, which everyone like the juxtaposition of these two things coming out almost at the same time. I think Terry on the Coffee Corner made a great little video laughing about this one, which is so hot on the heels of wanting more overtaking, more excitement, more races to capture the imagination of the youths out there, or as my cousin Vinny would say, the youths. We're going to extend Monaco to 2035 because that's notorious for all of its overtakes.
As long as we don't do that two-stop farce like we had last year, which turned into trying to actually drive slowly. Yeah, no, I love Monaco. I think it's one of those things that is history and tradition, right? It's the glitz and the glamour. It may not give you the best racing, but it gives you great quality. And I love it. So I'm happy it sticks around. And speaking of sticking around and people who speak French, the Gas Man, sticking with Alpine through 2028, not just two, but through 28. That's a pretty good extension. And when you look at the grid, it's like Charles and Pierre have some of the longest contracts. I think Max as well, but we know he has the out clause. Some of the longest contracts on the grid, which is great for them. Two friends, actually, who hang out a lot, as we've seen in some of the behind-the-scenes stuff, with some serious contracts. And if you're Alpine, you have to be pretty excited because, I mean, I know I'm biased. I think Gasman's my favorite midfielder, at least was at the beginning of the year, still up there. He's a solid talent, and to keep him at a team which has really struggled, I think that's good for them.
Yeah, no, I agree. I didn't see anything wrong in this. It's just interesting people giving out bigger contracts when no one really knows how the new cars are going to shake out. But then I guess it makes sense from the team perspective as well. If you don't know how the new car is going to shake out, then get someone with experience like Gasman tied down to help you turn it around if you don't quite hit the ground running. And we'll see how that one goes. We put this one in here because you're a money man. You love money talk.
I love these stories.
I know. So actually, do you want to go through it? Because I know you love things like this.
I'm happy to. But I didn't see this, so I will just look at the notes here. So McLaren has a handful of Middle Eastern backers, and they're set to buy out the minority shareholders in a deal that would value the team. So it's not what they're paying, it's what they're buying from a valuation perspective at a total of 3 billion euros. Pounds. Excuse me. Underscoring
Pounds, that's the pound sign.
Yeah, it is. Underscoring the turnaround in its fortunes since Zach Brown took over, or really since, F1 got popular, or since their team has really hit the ground well the last year and a half with the upgrade packages. But a £3 billion valuation this is the part that's interesting to me, is more than 5 times what they were valued at in a December 2020 fundraise. And again, looking at total value, not amount fundraised in 2020, looking at not the amount the Middle Eastern backers are buying the minority shareholders out for, but the total value from 5x in 5 years' time is amazing. Now, again, everyone wants to say, is it Zach? Is it this? Is it Lando? Is it Oscar? It's all of it. It's F1 as a whole. I think rising tide floats all boats. And I think we see that as for me, that's the biggest part. And I don't care if it's Drive to Survive. I don't care if it's the way they put together the highlight package of social media, the way people love F1 now. Whatever it may be, 5X in 5 years is an amazing return. So, Rob, I guess our hopes of opening up our own F1 team have gone down the drain.
We still need that angel investor. They just now need deeper pockets.
Pockets so deep you're stepping on them.
Yeah, basically. And then last one that caught my eye this week, and it was like a little bit of a nothing story that I just ended up going down a rabbit hole. I was like, oh, that's kind of semi-interesting, really, for the new regs. So Pirelli did some tyre tests at Silverstone, and we talked about it, these mule cars, which aren't really next year's cars at all. They're just like this or last year's cars, but with new tyres on for next year. So good luck, Pirelli. We're working out how that's all going to work out for 2026 regs. But apparently, I think it was after Hungary, Ferrari ran a front wing device that acted as a simulation of the new active aero expected in 26. So it said the intention of the device is to simulate the lower downforce levels expected to be generated by the front wings, and therefore have an effect on cornering speed and braking points, offering Pirelli the chance to evaluate these new compounds. So the picture, it didn't really look anything fancy. I don't know how they made it, if they just got some little high school to do a little hobby project of like, could you put something into this wing so that it will flex? It didn't look very high tech, but yeah, some little device that would just move the front wing up and down to generate different downforce settings during a lap, which is essentially what active aero is going to be next year, right? So
what are we going to do when we have guests on?
It's got to give Pirelli something.
Yeah. What are we going to do when we have guests on for the 100 seconds of DRS if there's no more DRS?
The 100 seconds of active aero. There you go. Just gets a rebrand.
Nailed it. That sounds great. I didn't see this story, so I'm happy you caught this one. I remember the tire test. I remember there wasn't just Ferrari. There were other people doing it. Colapinto decided to bin the Alpine, which was nice for them. But no, this is good. This is good. I think that's cool that they mock up get the front wing with some active aero. I love when they do stuff like this.
I hope they did it with air rakes as well. I love a good air rake.
And a bunch of Floviz all over the car. All right, so the news. Let's move to the video vault. We're going to have a few videos in here, not too many. I was on the road last week. Actually, I'll be on the road this week as well. Briefly, the Dutch Grand Prix 2025 highlights on Lollipop Man. I don't know how to say it enough. We got on the Lollipop Man train early, right? Like many years ago, a couple years ago, when it was, a couple thousand people watching the videos. Now it's humongous. They have a couple thousand Patreon fans that they go through at the end of each one. I think it's great. I thought this was another good one. I think they nailed it. They always find the funny parts and then apply just a comedic lens, and it's well animated as well. So I really enjoyed this one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
How to do a lap at the Temple of Speed Oracle virtual laps on the Oracle Red Bull Racing Channel. 2 minutes. It was too fast. It was great. Some sim driver, Jarno Opmeer and someone else, I forgot who, put this together. It was really good. I enjoyed it, but it was a minute and 40 seconds, and I know Monza's fast, but make the video longer too. And then finally, the best reactions from the 2025 Dutch Grand Prix on the P1 channel. 20 minutes. Matt's reaction, Matty P1. His reaction to Charles and Lewis, and in particular Charles, and then Charles sitting on the mound with all of the photographers taking pictures of him in the dirt, sand dunes. Man, I felt bad for Matt. Like, as a Ferrari fan, as a Charles fan, you could just see him wearing down, the season just taking its toll on him at this point. And the Dutch Grand Prix felt like he just didn't have anything left in the tank. Did you see this?
No, I haven't. No. What I did see though was somebody had mocked up. I saw it online. A Lego set of Charles in the sand dune. So it's a little Charles Leclerc figure on a hill of Lego sand. It's just so well done. And it would probably be in the Lego store for $50 for the set as well, because everything's so ridiculous these days.
They are.
Oh my God, I sound like an old man there. Oh, get off my lawn. Anyway.
Twice now for you. Let's close up the vault.
I didn't see a whole host of practice live. I saw all of FP3, a little bit of FP2, and then I caught up on the highlights. And all I would really say is this was one of the most uneventful practices that I think we've had. I'm sure the team's got all the data out they needed for it and did all the things they wanted to do, but we just had Kimmy beached it in the gravel in FP2. Oscar didn't drive in FP1 because it was what's his name, Gunn's chance. So Oscar didn't get a chance to learn the track. Um, Charles made two amazing saves after putting a rear tire in the gravel in FP3, and then went and threw it into second spot and got the home crowd cheering. That was practice, really.
Yeah.
Did you see any of it at all?
I did not. I saw the highlight packages. Again, like Stefano would say, the youngsters and their highlight packages. That's all I had the time to do. But I did watch a lot of Qualy. I watched it a little late, but I really enjoyed it. For some reason, I felt like there was great jeopardy. There was great, just the way the track evolved. Q1, it was one of those things where everyone just kept coming through with faster and faster laps, and no one was safe. You saw someone in their first runs in Q1 put a time on the board in like the high 119s, and it looked good at first, and then you just watched it drop. You could be seventh, and the next thing you turn around to 19th. You're like, whoa, this track is evolving. These cars are ramping up. And the funniest part to me was the Mercedes out on mediums. Now, they did have they used a soft more than other people, so you're like, all right, maybe they're saving it. No, they went medium the whole Q1. It's weird that sometimes that Mercedes car loves the mediums. I feel like they did this in Canada and one other place I can't remember where they were purposely on mediums while others were on softs. Aston Martin did it too.
I think George did all of Q1 on mediums. I think Kimi had to bail for softs because it didn't work out for him. But yeah, you're right. George absolutely nailed it. And he was fastest on mediums in Q1, which was absolutely bizarre.
Yeah.
Which saw us lose. We lost Lawson, the gas man, Colapinto, Stroll, and Hadjar. And did I hear it right that is Hadjar's first exit in Q1 this season?
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
It is. For a rookie, we've got to race 3,000 or whatever on now with this ever-growing calendar, and that's his first failure to get out of Q1. So unlucky for him, but and then he gets even more pain on top of that because they end up changing his power unit, I think. So he gets a pit lane start. So although he qualified 16th, he ends up doing a pit lane start. But we'll get to his redemption drive later, I'm sure.
We definitely will. Then we go to Q2. I enjoyed, again, this was my least favorite of the 3 qualifying sessions. It just didn't feel quite as, like the evolution didn't come quite as fast as the other sessions. But Lando struggled a bit here. He had some issues. He had some nerves. He went out by himself, no tow. And it just became a question of, will Lando make it through? And he did fine at the end. But again, it took a lap. It took him putting something together where he had to make sure he got out of the drop zone. We did lose Ocon, Albon, Carlos, Nico, and Ollie Behrman. I was surprised by Ollie. The Haas's looked slow, and they said they'd be slow, but then they looked okay during the race. It was really weird to me because they were saying how slow they'd be, but then Behrman looked frisky at times during the race. I'm like, I thought you guys were driving a tractor this week.
Yeah, it's bizarre. And then we get to Q3, and this is where my heart breaks for you ever so slightly, Brian, because you made the schoolboy error of opening up social media before you watched a rerun of Qualy because you didn't see it live, and you already knew who had pole, which kind of ruins the big crescendo of Q3. I loved Q3. I thought it was epic, and it had one of those classic final runs. Like last week, you bemoaned Zandvoort of it was done. First run, that was pole. No one came close in the second run. Here was the polar opposite, where nothing was done until the second runs. And we saw cars go out there and just keep going faster. Were they going to break the track record? Who was going to get there? I think the order was, didn't Piastri go, or is it in reverse order of it is here? Did it go Leclerc was top, then Piastri, then Norris, and then Verstappen took him on his right of the death?
Well, yeah, and it
could have been that order. Let's go with it, even if it wasn't right. But I think Piastri went pole. Norris came around and broke the track record, and my jaw dropped. I was like, wow, because Oscar had put an 18.9 on the board. I was like, ooh, holy smoke. And then I'm like, he's done it again. He's bided his time all the way through practice, not looking especially fast in Q1 and Q2, and then boom, nails it when it matters. Round the corner comes Lando, 118.8. I'm like, and that's the track record. You've gone and broken it. That's amazing. No one's ever broken the track. Oh, and here's Max.
Well, it was fast too, because Max had
he wasn't even.
Yeah, Max had provisional pole for most of the session until the last runs came through.
Yes.
And then, like you say, Lando takes pole, and you're like, oh, that's done. I forgot Max was still out there, but it was right away too. Like they're celebrating Lando Norris on provisional. Max Verstappen has pole, and it was just so fast.
And Max did one of those things where I don't think he went purple in any sector.
Right, which
Because when they flicked back over to Max and they showed the thing down the bottom and he was green, 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 which I mean, I think was his personal best in each sector, but he hadn't gone purple in any. I was like, well, this Lando's just set the track record. There's no way that, oh, yep, Max is on pole.
Well, we've
So,
talked
wow.
about that before. He loves doing that. He loves to. He did that in Monaco a couple years ago, where I think he even went green, yellow, and then like no chance, and then purple, and then pole. I mean, he loves pulling those out of the bag and having one sector that's just ungodly. And
Yeah.
you and I talked a little bit about this in the past. And you remember in Japan, Max had the really low downforce wing. Yuki was new to the team, and he had what looked like an ice cream scooper on the back. It was so big, all the downforce. And so Max had, once again, the skinny tie version, which like you could slide through a credit card reader. This wing was so small. And it felt like he had the lowest downforce setup of any driver. Like that wing was just ridiculous. And he makes it work. He keeps he keeps it on the track. He handles the chicanes. He handles the Lesmos. He handles Parabolica and Curva Grande. He's fine operating a car that has just about zero in the way of rear wing downforce.
Yeah, and I mean, two things stand out here. At this point, we had no, I will be honest, I'd nearly written into the notes that had Red Bull gambled on track position for Sunday and sacrificed race pace because there's just, have they dialed it all in on Saturday to get him on pole and now he's going to struggle? And I'm still of the opinion the McLaren's going to eat him up. Second thing that we then hear late in the race through the commentary, I think, is when they were looking at Max and how well he was going, they made a comment about how Max had asked the team to take the car in a direction in setup that they'd not done before. Now, you and I talk about, and we have friendly banter on this about, well, Max Verstappen is fantastic. He can't make the car go any faster than it's physically capable of. And while this obviously the Red Bull is a rocket ship when it doesn't have to deal with too many corners where slowing down is needed, and Monza being the temple of speed, it just ticked every box. But I think this really showed Max's ability to then go and work out, well, what is the ceiling of this car? What if we tweaked it this way, and this way? And probably all the engineers are going, well, that'll make it damn fast, but you're probably unlikely to be able to keep it on rails around the corners. He's like, you worry about making it faster, I'll worry about the corners. And I think that's what we saw today, is just him having utter faith that he could do this if he put it in that direction. I'd love to know more about that, about what were these settings, because we're recording pretty quickly-ish after the race. It didn't come out directly post-race, but there's some mysterious direction Max asked for this to go that did the business.
He didn't set it up for chaos, for carnage, for war, for battle. And they changed the whole thing overnight with the squiggly floor. I think they put the squiggly floor on the corner, and that's what they did. And then the Red Bull just took off. Yeah, that was it.
I think Brad Pitt was seen coming out of the Red Bull garage last night.
Oh, so we get to the race. And one more thing on Qualy. Sorry, one more thing I wanted to say. George and his happy, loving relationship with the mediums was so disappointed in Q3. They send him out on soft tires like the whole rest of the world. And George's like, what are these tires? I mean, it was basically the Charles Leclerc thing from years ago, which was this.
Wait, what are these tires?
Sorry, it's a mistake.
The difference is George goes, wait, what are these tires? I asked for mediums. And they're like, you get softs. We tell you what to do here, buddy. So that was funny. And then the Williams.
Oh, no, I have one. Okay, go on. You do that. And then I have one last thing about quality as well.
Williams piece. Everyone's talking about for the last few years. Williams are so slippery. They're so fast in a straight line. And this year we've noticed that's not quite as true. And last year, even second half of the year, it wasn't quite as true. But in the ramp up for this week, everybody kept repeating the same thing, even the Williams team. And they're talking about how they're going to go fast. The commentators talking about how they're going to go fast. We lost both Williams drivers in Q2, which was a shock to me. Now, Albon had a really good race, and he did a great job today. Carlos was once again fighting with the entire midfield. And so we'll get into that. But, I was surprised. I expected a little more than Q2 exits for both the Williams.
Yeah, true. And my final observation isn't mine. I've got to give a shout out to Lee on the Discord, where unfortunately Lewis Hamilton ruined this because Lee came out with a stat wow, look at the qualifying top 10. It's a club sandwich on Red Bull bread because we had Verstappen as first, Yuki in the same car that should be a rocket ship in 10th, and then all the filling. All the filling. Look at all that filling, man. McLarens, Ferraris, Mercedes, Saubers, Aston Martin. It was a sandwich for the ages, but then Hamilton had his five-place grid drop, and that didn't work anymore. But it was a good shout, Lee, so we'll give you that.
Nice. All right, so the race starts. Top 13 on mediums. Everyone's predicting a one-stopper. Nobody in shouting distance on softs. And you're like, well, all we got to really hope for here is some good battling, maybe some early race carnage, some overtakes. We'll see what happens. And man, did it deliver. The first handful of laps was just pure chaos. I loved it. Hulk comes around the corner before we even start and box to retire the car. So now Hulk has a DNS, did not start. Yeah. But Isaac and Pierre are pit lane starts. Pierre joined with a power unit change, so he also was starting from the pit lane with Isaac. But oh my God, when Max takes off and he does not get the start of the McLarens, Lando on the inside where the track just narrows runs onto the grass. Max just says, "You can stay out there. I'm not going to move for you." I don't think he ran him into the grass. A lot of people online were saying he pushed Lando, and no, I think Lando just kept going where the track stopped being. And they get to the first corner, that first chicane, and I loved it. Lando said, "You know what? I'm going to put my elbows out, but fairly. I'm going to take the corner because I have the corner and I'm going to go through it." And Max looks and sees Lando staying there, and he's like, "I don't think I can make it through without contact." So he bails and cuts that first chicane. And as they're doing that, Oscar, who'd been sniffing around Lando and Max, all of a sudden looks and goes, "Oh crap, there's Charles." And Charles is right on the inside of Oscar. And it was wild. And somehow no one hit the other cars. There were no accidents.
I know.
And they got through the first corner, and I'm sitting here just watching this, and it just goes from there.
Yeah, it was just, we had like four cars all kind of almost crisscrossing each other. I'm like, how have we had no contact there at all? The Oscar and Charles battle, I'll take you back. His overtake around the outside of
Curva
wherever
Grande.
it was. Oh, yeah, it was just amazing. And after Red Bull did the right thing and told Max to give the position back because he cut the corner. Just take your medicine now rather than wait for it's going to go under investigation. You're going to get given a 5-second penalty. Just do it. Pulls over, lets him past. I was absolutely adamant at that point that this was now Lando drives off into the distance, and how long before Oscar chases Max down. And boy, oh boy, was I massively wrong, and I don't mind admitting it.
I gotta say, I agree with you. I mean, I thought the same thing. I thought clear air on mediums, that McLaren is fast. Here it goes. But Max was like, "Nah, you know what? We set this up for combat. I'm going to get you again." And he just followed closely and pulled a great maneuver back into turn one. And it was awesome. On lap 4, Max takes the lead back into turn 1. So they just crossed the start finish, as they started lap 4, takes it right back. And like you say, I loved the Oscar Charles battles back and forth a couple times each. That was fun. But the problem I have is as we kind of get past lap 4, we settled into like, all right, Max is in front. I agreed. I thought Lando was going to drive off in the sunset. Didn't. Sat behind Max. Oscar sat behind Lando. And Charles sat behind Oscar. And yet it was a little close at first, but by lap 10, we had sort of a handful of seconds between each of them, and that just grew. Eventually, we were at 6 seconds each. Now, go ahead. Yeah.
I have my hand up here just to let you know of a small little mistake I made on the plane, which absolutely backs up everything you've just said. So we get to lap 9, and I'd paid for the Wi-Fi on the flight so that I could stream F1 TV. And at lap 9, it crapped out on me, and I was like, "Oh, when you resume, please resume where I was watching it," because I didn't get to watch it live because it took a while for the Wi-Fi to kick in till we got to 10,000 feet or whatever it was, and it was already 9:05. So I was like, "Okay, I'll start the race and I'll fast forward all the way up to the grid walk. Now watch a little bit of that. Okay, no, sod it. Let's go and watch Lights Out." So watch Lights Out. Got to lap 9. Must have accidentally pressed live when I rebooted up F1 TV and got the signal going again. It took me 3 laps to realize that I just skipped forward 10 laps. So I'd lost connection at lap 9. I came back at lap 19. Everybody was in the same order. Nothing had changed. The only thing that snapped me out of this was that on lap 19, Ollie boxed. I thought there was something catastrophically wrong with him because he's boxing on lap 9. And then I realized I'd fast forwarded 10 laps. I was like, do you know what? I've missed absolutely nothing here by the looks of things. So
Well, I will say this. We did have some fun where Bortoletto got a little sniff of George. He got a little close, and I'm like, that's fascinating. Nothing happened. But he at least was close and tried. Hamilton took Fernando into turn 1, and they had this thing going. There was an investigation with Lewis's move on Yuki because he'd passed him as well. All clear. And then at one point, Charles on lap 6 got a little close, so you saw that before you lost your connection. But then that was about it. And I enjoyed Lewis taking Bortoletto. And it was a lot of people passing. I would say the passes we did see from throughout the midfield and everyone else, they were all either into turn 1 or there were some good ones on the outside of Curva Grande and then into the next chicane. However, here was the part that kind of I struggled with. By lap 14, to your point, Bortoletto was leading a massive DRS train. The top 7, as I already told you, were all spaced out, 3 seconds or so each, some of them 2, some of them 4. And then right behind them is Bortoletto leading a train, and this was true. It was Bortoletto, Alonso, Yuki, Kimi, Ali, Carlos, Alex, Esti, and Lance, all within DRS of each other. So there's nowhere for the leaders to box. So all we're doing is leaving the pin in the grenade, and it's spaced out, and then it's a train. And so that was a little bit of a struggle for me during that section of the race. A little boring, but that's okay.
it was okay. It just skipped past in the blink of an eye. 10 laps just flew by.
Apparently so.
So yeah, we had not a lot going on. I guess we were just kind of looking for things to happen. The team orders at Williams, they were on different tires. It just made sense to me.
Yeah, different tires, different strategy.
Yeah. And then we saw a picture of Alonso, and I was like, oh, is this the safety car that's going to throw everything into the air? And they were like, no, it's a puncher, it's a puncher. And then it just didn't look right. The car was sat down real kind of weird. I'm like, nah, there's no rubber flailing around anywhere here that we normally see. And it's like when they showed the replay, man, did he hit that curb hard. And I'm not surprised that suspension said goodnight.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. And at this point, as Alonso is moving slowly and they retire the car, we see 2 things. One, McLaren trying to figure out, can we go plus 15 and go to softs instead of going to hards sooner? And they're asking the drivers. And then George is like, well, you know what? Look, we're going to make our strategy right now. As McLaren's literally debating this, he comes in, goes to hards. And you're like, all right, so we're going to see what ends up happening here. And then one of my favorite parts of the race, Liam decides to pull a Liam. And we talked about him, I think, twice in the last 2 races doing this, where he's driving by Braille. And so he decided just to bump into Yuki 3 times at the outside of the second chicane. And it's like he's racing like it's NASCAR. And he's just hitting him, boom, 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 and then they move on. And what is he doing? And Yuki basically says, what's wrong with this guy? And I'm thinking, it's not a race unless Liam believes there'll be a little rubbing, because rubbing is racing, son.
Yeah, then we had Charles came into box and seemed to only remember at the very last minute that you have to slow down to 80 kilometers an hour, judging by the lockup.
How did he not get done up for speeding in the pit lane on that?
He must have just literally hit 80 exactly.
Like 80.4 kilometers per hour, and it rounds down, because otherwise it was close.
Don't know what he did. I mean, the same way that Marty hit 88 miles an hour at just the right point for the clock tower, then he's gone and done that for the pit lane entry. But this was the bit now where I'd already settled into the thought that, my God, Max is going to win this. He has this totally under control, and this is now really a can Oscar catch Lando to give us at least a bit of a title fight thing to watch, because I know we hadn't had the leaders box at this point, but unless something really, really bad happened, I didn't see a difference in performance when they all went to hards, or even if they went to softs on the McLarens. There didn't seem to be that pace there this week for
Right.
McLaren. So I
Nothing to do.
didn't see nothing. So unless something we got a safety car, I was kind of all in, and we saw what Max came in onto the hards, Lewis went onto hards, and the McLarens just stayed out. And I was like, well, you're gonna have to be absolute like nuclear powered rocket ship to catch because you're now getting into the coming up to like 10 laps to go window.
Yep. And you remember last
year,
year?
you're going to have to make like 14 seconds up on him on softs.
Exactly. And last year, Charles stayed out on hards or mediums, but stayed to the end. He didn't come into box, and it ended up being a great strategy. I have a question for you. It was lap 41, right around this time we're talking about, when Carlos and Ollie came together. He took him on the outside of Curva Grande, and as they're coming up to the second chicane, the wheels touch, and they both spun. And at the time, I'm watching it thinking, Ollie's like a little behind, but they're both kind of there. Where did they expect Ollie to go? Like, it seems like a racing incident to me. They replayed it, and the commentators sort of agreed. They're like, if anything, maybe Ollie could have backed out. But where do you expect him to go? And, like, how fast can he back out of this maneuver? Because he was pretty even until, like, he wasn't. And then it was too late to have predicted that. And so I'm thinking, all right, racing incident. They spun out. They both got back on track and kept going. And then they gave Ollie a 10-second penalty. And I'm like, dang, this is like the rerun for Carlos last week, except Carlos got that penalty, which we thought was a racing incident. And so once again, we and the commentators all kind of agreed racing incident, and someone comes out way worse off from a penalty perspective. I was just surprised, again, that at what seemed to be sort of a ding-dong fight, he said, she said, they're like, no, you get 10 seconds. But really?
I know. The more I listened to the commentators, I was starting to get a little bit concerned for Carlos that he was going to get the penalty because they said, look, he's really shut the door on in there. He hasn't left him a car's width on the inside. So he's left Ollie nowhere to go. So guess what happens? There's collision. So it's probably a racing incident. But if anything, not looking good for Carlos there because he shuts the door quite aggressively. So I'm like, oh, here we go. Carlos is getting another penalty like last week. And it was just as if the racing gods went, everyone seemed a bit upset that you got 10 seconds last week and no one can understand why. So we're gonna even the score and we're gonna give 10 seconds to Ollie. So watch out whoever comes into contact with Ollie in the next race, because even if it's not your fault, you're gonna get a 10-second penalty because no one knows what a penalty is anymore. You're gonna get drivers. We had this discussion on Discord. I can't remember if it was Andy or who was talking about it, and this all seemed to come to pass because of what everyone talked about, the Max Verstappen rule. He was getting his elbows out too much. I'm just of the mind, let them race. Let the drivers work this out themselves on track. Don't go putting this ridiculous amount of rules around thing, trying to work out whether an axle is by a mirror or if my elbow is by your face. Or, I mean, just if you keep doing this, drivers now are going to have to back out ridiculously early in case, like an Ollie Behrman there would have had to have put the brakes on. Oh, it looks
Super
like Carlos
early.
Sainz. He might get me into this corner,
agree.
so I better brake really early and absolutely give him the overtake because then it'll all be nice and clean and nobody will get a penalty.
No way he could have predicted it was going to happen that way.
No. So you'll end up with nobody wanting to race each other anymore because, well, is this overtake legal? Are we going to get penalised? If they all start crashing into each other because everyone gets them elbows out, Max Verstappen style, well, then everyone gets their elbows out and everyone starts crashing and everyone starts spinning out. And team bosses aren't going to like that. And they will self-police each other because it's like, hey, this really isn't fun getting spun around every week. It's like, no, we're going to have to. I honestly believe if these are the 20 best drivers in the world, they will sort this out themselves and wrap in all this ridiculous amount of pseudo overtake rules, especially on corners that switch back one way and the other. When are you on the apex of the first and when are you on the apex of the second? When they,
Agreed.
As you can tell, I'm not a fan of the overtake rules.
Yeah, I don't think Ollie deserved a 10-second penalty or any penalty, quite frankly. So a couple more things I just want to highlight before we get to what I think will be the main talking point of the race, besides obviously Max's amazing win. Hamilton takes Esti for 6th place on lap 42. Esteban was pulling the Alex Albon from Australia move a couple years ago, where he's like, yeah, I'm not going to box till the race is over. Someone did it in Baku, as well, and there were like pit lane reporters like walking around in the pit lane and celebrating.
Wasn't it Ocon then as well?
I think it was Ocon then too, and so he decided to see if they was going to test if they were prepared again, but he went right to the end, boxed on lap 52 of 53, but he was dropped by Hamilton for 6th place. Carlos and Kimi had a nice little battle around Curva Grande, and then it happens. And then lap 45, 46, we start hearing the conversation. All right, we got Max in front. We've got Lando, then we've got Oscar, and then we've got Charles. And, in order to make sure the pit windows work right, we're going to box Oscar first out of order. Lando had priority because he was leading of the McLaren team. We're going to box Oscar first just to protect against Charles getting into the pit window. And Lando says, fine, but no undercut, right? And they say, correct, no undercut, which means team orders, we're going to box out of order to help our rear driver, and we're not going to let him undercut you coming out on faster soft tires. We'll make sure that doesn't happen. So they box Oscar on 46, and then lap 47 happens. Lando comes in, and the front left jack did not work right. And if you rewatch it, there's a color ring on the jack. It goes green. So the jack...
Not the jack that lifts the car off the ground. Don't
right,
you mean
sorry.
the wheel gun?
Wheel gun, sorry, thank you.
Yes.
That goes green. So I think the wheel gunner thinks their job is done. But the release light doesn't go green. So Lando is sitting there on the jack still, and they hit it again. The wheel gun hits it again, and then the light goes green. But their wheel gun was green. It's like if you watch it slowly, you'll see that the wheel gunner, I think, did everything they're supposed to have done, but the car didn't register it being tight enough or whatever, so they had to hit it again. Light goes green. He goes 5.9 seconds, and all of a sudden we have a massive problem.
You say hit it again. The guy behind the wheel gunner literally hit him. He knew something was wrong, and he knew it was that wheel. Somebody knew it was the front left that was still a problem.
Right, and they tap him and do it again.
Smacked him.
Yeah.
Tapped him. That was a heck of a tap. He whacks this guy around the back, like, do it again. And they do it again. So even though everything had gone green, somebody somewhere knew that it was the front left that had screwed the pooch. So like you say then, now Lando comes down the pit lane. We can see Oscar coming down. Oscar doesn't know what's going on, so he's got his foot to the floor and easily sweeps by Lando. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be awkward. This is going to be really awkward because one part of me can see the whole stuff happens. It's not Oscar's fault that there was a long pit stop. However, Lando was given the option to go first, and they explained it to him on the radio, but we want to do Oscar first to protect against Charles. And he went, okay, let's do it. So he did play the team game there and said, yeah, I'm willing to give up preferential treatment for my pit stop to help my teammate out. So you've got this delicate balancing act of Lando helped the team out and then got screwed by circumstance. So what's the fair thing to do here? Yep. What transpires is they do decide to ask Oscar to give him this place back and liken it to Hungary. Me and you both debated that if Lando just pulled over in Hungary quick, he'd have had 15 laps or whatever it was to go attack Oscar, that he hung it out right until the last lap and then gave it back to Oscar on the line almost for the win. Fair credit to Oscar here. He hates this, but he immediately complies. And I thought, oh, here we go. Because although Oscar's he's playing the good driver card here, he's actually benefited by 3.5 seconds because he's now in Lando's DRS. Right. So boy, oh boy, have we now got a shootout to the line to see what these two championship rivals can do. And it turns out nothing.
Yeah. I mean, I think you said it well, right? I mean, I think the only things I would add is just to emphasize, it was team orders. It wasn't just a regular pit stop. It was an out-of-order pit stop done by the team. If those are regular pit stops and they go in order, if Lando has preference and takes 4.9 seconds and then Oscar boxes the next lap and has a regular pit stop and is ahead of him, they don't even ask to turn it around.
No, game on, just go.
No one even says, hey, we'll flip the spot back. That's not even in the consideration. But because the team asked for this, the same way they did in Hungary, so that Oscar could cover off, or the time Lando could cover off Lewis, in my mind, that was the reason that they had to tell Oscar to give the spot back. We caused this problem. We did this by trying to help the team. The team had to fix that. So to me, I'm 100% with you that that I think it was the right call. I agree with what Oscar said on the radio when he gave his little bit of disagreement. Well, it's not really my problem that the pit stop was slow and yada yada yada, and I don't think this is the right thing to do. But then he did it, and like you say, he had time. He had 4 laps, which was the most he was going to get to try to attack Lando, and he started in his DRS and then fell out of the DRS and wasn't even close. Oscar had 53 laps. Let's say after the first, 4 or 5 laps where the order was set, he had 42 laps to try to get up on Lando's bumper. Didn't. And then he had 4 at the end, starting in DRS, and didn't. So to me, and I know, Rob Reed, you're out there, a friend of the show, disagreeing with us via WhatsApp, but I got to agree with Vale and say that I think this was the right call because of the reasons we gave. It wasn't a natural pit stop. It was out of order for the team. I know that things happen, but Lando wouldn't have agreed to this and wouldn't in the future if they didn't do this at this point.
Oh, exactly. And it was just a weekend that didn't work out for McLaren. I mean, didn't work out. They've come second and third, but in terms of recent domination that we've seen, there was just nothing there. They were quick enough to keep the Ferraris and the Mercedes at bay. They were never even close. All those conversations about going to softs, that was, I think, just about elongating the strategy to just pray for a safe run, and they'd somehow get lucky in that. I don't think they ever thought they were going to chase Max down 13 seconds in 10 laps. So it was just never going to happen. And Oscar never really looked comfortable at Monza all weekend. And everybody sort of blames it. Oh, you trace it all the way back. He didn't have FP1. Okay, maybe extra running, extra time to prep is a thing, but that happens to all drivers where they get a rookie come in and do FP1 from time to time. So this week it was the turn of Oscar to miss out on some prep time. He just didn't seem to have it in his locker today. So I think Oscar will come away from this a bit cheesed off about the call, but I think he's mature enough to understand it, and I think he'll see it as damage limitation that at least Lando didn't go and catch Max and get past him and take a bigger bite out of his championship lead. I just think it was just I can't say it was a bad day at the office for McLaren. It was an ordinary day at the office for McLaren. They didn't dominate, and yeah.
Yeah, agreed. By the way, we forgot to say after that whole battle happened and they traded the spots back, Kimi was awarded on the last lap a 5-second penalty for driving erratically. We didn't see what his erratic driving was, or at least I didn't, but he'd also gotten a black and white flag at one of the earliest points at a track like this. Now, it wasn't Austria years ago where everyone was getting black and white flags and track limits like 4 minutes in. It was like lap 29, and Kimi got a black and white flag. What? At Monza? You don't go faster unless he was going through the chicanes like Carlos did and just got a reprimand, which, by the way, was its own weirdo situation. But unless he was doing that off camera and we didn't see it, and I know he wasn't, or they would have shown us, there's no faster way by going off track. So for him to go off track 4 times, because you get 3 and then the black and white, right? Or is the black and white on the third? I'm drawing a blank. Regardless, at least
I'm
3.
not sure. Yeah.
And then he gets that so early, and then he gets a separate driving erratically penalty. And again, Rob said we're kind of recording this pretty quickly after the race. We'll look into that. But, man, Kimi, come on, it's your home race, man. You got to look better than getting a black and white flag and driving erratically. And, I don't know, could have done more, buddy.
Yeah, so what that gave us was a podium of Max with such a smile on his face. It was just so good to see him. He was obviously so thrilled about that win. Like they said on the commentary, he was punching the air inside the car as he went across the line. He won by 20 seconds, 19 seconds. Or whatever it was, but that was a big marker. I mean, obviously that Red Bull light's going fast and not being asked to go around too many corners where you need to slow down too much, which probably means it will be a return to form when we go to some of the other tracks now. But if this was going to be the only race of the season where they were going to get the perfect operating window for their car, then you still have to have someone bring it home, and Max absolutely nailed it. So, but, so we got Charles, George, Lewis, Albon in the points, Bortoletto in the points, Kimi in there just about holding off. Oh, who's this that crept into 10th while no one was looking?
Isaac Hadjar from the pit lane. From the pit lane at Monza, where overtaking ain't exactly easy. That's pretty cool. Out in Q3 for the first time in his career, into the points from the pit lane. I mean, well done, Isaac. That's awesome. So, kind of wrapping up the race before we look at anything else. Again, was it a banger? No. Was it terrible? No. It was somewhere in the middle. A lot of fun at the start. A lot of fun to
Yeah.
watch. A handful of incidents throughout that were fascinating and interesting. But without the McLaren team order battle, I think we would have snoozed all the way to the end. So I guess front left wheel gunner, thank you for spicing up the whole race at the end there. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have much more than that to sum this thing up. You?
No, no, it was yeah. I've got nothing else to add. I think you've summed it up well. So I think we need to get around to doing our King of the Pits.
Let's do it. King of the Pits this week.
You're the king of the pit.
Rob, I will let you go first on King, and I will go first on Pits.
So I have to give an honourable mention to Isaac for his pit lane run to the points. But because we haven't given it to him for a million years now, it seems, and we got fed up of giving it to him while he was dominating, I do have to give it back to Max Verstappen for the first time for a while because absolutely nailed qualifying, set the lap record, and just did what needed to be done. If it was him that came up with that strategy as well to change the car's setup because he knew he could maximize the speed around this place, then yeah, I can't go beyond Max. You?
Ditto everything you said. Got nothing to add. Let's talk about the pits.
You're the pits.
So I could talk about Aston Martin's suspension department. I could talk about all kinds of different things for the pits. I got to go with Liam Lawson. I'm just sorry. Like, I'm getting tired of him running into people and acting like it's not his fault. I'm getting tired of him cutting people off. And, oh, I didn't do that, or I didn't spin this guy out, or didn't hit him 3 times. He's the only guy in the field doing this. And we always used to make fun of Lance, like he wasn't paying attention or didn't know he had mirrors. And Lance still does a Lance more often than not. But Liam's the only guy who thinks, like, I'm going to pass this person, and in doing so, I'm going to make sure I hit them a couple times. These are not NASCARs. Like, you look at Fernando's suspension. He ran over some curbs, out of the race. Like, you just can't bounce off someone like that. And he does it every friggin' race. And he's clearly talented. And he's gotten over his confidence problem from rejoining the Red Bull, from the Red Bull to the RB team. And he's driving better. Just stop hitting people, man.
I mean, I find it hard to disagree on everything you just said. And my pits is well, okay, let me give the honourable mentions. By the way, at the beginning, Lance Stroll finished 18th, and he sucked today. At the beginning, we saw him on the timing board drop loads and loads of spots. Never saw anything, unless we saw it between laps 9 and 19, where I skipped time. But
I missed it.
I saw it visibly on the timing chart very early on, lap 2 or 3 or something like. I thought he was out, but obviously he wasn't. Could have given it to him for being a lap down and only 4 cars got lapped, and he was right back there and couldn't even keep pace with Colapinto, which isn't a good yardstick. I could give it to Lawson, like you said. I give it to Yuki for, come on, the one time where there doesn't seem much. I'm really going to be belittling to F1 setups here. It's Monza. Surely it's just foot to the floor for 80%, make it go fast. And if you're in a fast car, which Red Bull obviously was around here, how did Yuki finish 13th and outside the points?
I don't think he had the same wing as Max. I think he had a little more downforce. I don't think people like running that Max level of no downforce.
Okay. But the person I'm going to give it to now, because he's disappointing me, is Carlos Sainz.
Oh my God, he's a deserving recipient. I agree.
He's just, whether last week was his fault or wasn't his fault, whether this week was his fault or wasn't his fault, he just seems to be becoming. Is it clumsy? Is it? I don't know. I love Carlos Sainz. I thought he went through a period at the beginning of this or middle of the season where he was catching up Alex, and these two were looking like a great pairing together. And all of a sudden, he's just gone off the boil, and he just gets involved in things like this where, I don't know, I think more of him, and he should be making cleaner passes and staying out of the trouble and getting stuff done. I don't know. I hate to do it, but yeah, it's going to It's going to science.
Stop inventing. Stop inventing.
He'd like a word with you. He'd like a word. Let's hear what Pitlane Paul had to say about all of this. Paul sent in a review, and let's first play his music, of course. Well deserved. I always want to throw a yeah in at the end.
I can't even muster up a hey no after this. I mean, there's a lap to go, which I don't know what to say, guys. I want to be positive. Friday, Saturday, whatever they are, who cares? The race, it's like how can I word it? It started really exciting. I thought, yeah, this is going to be good. I sort of expected Max to lose position off the start, like I think I said last week.
So did we.
The start in Monza with the long run to turn one. Okay, yeah, and then there's a bit of changing, jostling behind and everything. It was just like, okay, this actually could be a really good race for, you know. So I was pretty excited, and then if I was to open the cupboard door and trap my manhood in there several times, not that it's possibly large enough to do so, I still think it would be arguably more fun than what I've just witnessed.
Oh, dang.
Oh, wow.
I mean, Antonelli's just got a penalty for driving erratically, which drops him down to 9th instead of, 8th. Fiona May, I was about to wave the flag, fair play to her, but I mean, that's still not overly exciting, is it? I just had a bit of an issue with a pit stop with McLaren, with Lando. Look, for all intents and purposes, I don't actually mind them swapping positions back. A mechanical failure is one thing, but when it's like let's say a team failure, when it's one of the guys, it's a little bit different. I think I don't have a massive drama on that one, if I've got to be hand on heart honest. If that gunman, I've been on a team where it doesn't, not that anyone would think that gunman's done it on purpose. I'm not saying this by this line, of course. All I'm just saying is, okay, I don't mind that. I think that's okay. I think it's okay. And like they said, he was right behind him. They can race, whatever. That's the way it is. That's how you win a championship with a team. All of this usual stuff. I cannot think of anything else worthwhile speaking about this race. The only thing that's worthwhile is now changing the channel, because it's oh dear. Let's go to Baku, which is also a bit of a race where I can't say not a lot happened, but I don't know. Oh, I feel deflated. Terrible for Hulkenberg not starting the race. Alonso suspension failure. He's got over too big. Stroll finishing down the bottom. Don't know what's happened there. Colapinto, Gasly, whatever. Ocon penalty. Yeah, it seemed harsh, but whatever. Lawson, okay. Sonoda went backwards again. Behrman, okay. Fair play. Good job for Williams. They did well. 11th place for Sainz, so he had a bit of an accident. That's fine. Good for Hajar. P10 from the pit lane. Very good. Antonelli, P9. Erratic driving. Bortoletto, well done again. He's proven to be a decent guy. Fair play. Albon, just mentioned Williams, great. Hamilton, fantastic. Climbing up to position. George Russell, solid again. How he's not got a contract, I don't know. Charles Leclerc, a 4th. Ferrari won't be happy because it's not on the podium. 3rd place, Piastri. 2nd place, Norris. 1st place, Super Max Verstappen by.
It was like, did Rob?
It's a horse race at the end.
It was. Did you ever see the Micro Machines commercials? Were you here, or did they have them over there? No, okay. They're these small cars, like Hot Wheels.
I know what
smaller.
Micro Machines are.
Yeah.
I just don't know what the commercial was.
The commercial guy would talk at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and that was basically Pitlane Paul at the end. There is like the Micro Machine.
He sounded like he was calling the end of a commentating on the end of a horse race.
Charles
Leclerc.
By the way, just two last things before you hit the standings, if we want to even hit the standings. One, Lando got booed a lot on the podium, and in the pit lane interview, I don't understand the Italian hate for Lando. I was very confused by the booing of Lando. And then the other part is, as we watched the anthem start, and before they played Max's anthem, The doot Max Verstappen singing was fantastic. I
was
loved
brilliant.
it. Fully endorsed it. Thank you to the Tifosi and all the fans in Milan at Monza who did that. That was awesome. And I know it's outside Milan, a good distance, but you get my point. That was awesome. I loved it. I love when fans do cool stuff like that. We don't got to boo nobody. Like, we could take that offline. I didn't understand the Lando hate and where that came from.
No, I mean, he didn't do anything wrong, so I don't really understand.
Twice they booed him in the interview and then on the podium.
Yeah, I know, and that was weird. Before I do the standings, actually, I got to do the casino game updates.
Oh yeah, here we go.
Do you want to take back your "You're the Pits" about Liam Lawson?
Nope. Why?
Because he went and nailed your roulette at coming in 14th.
I could count on him screwing something up and finishing exactly 14th.
That's your first ever roulette.
Is that our
win.
first ever roulette?
No, I've had 3 of them. I'm now
Really?
3-1 up in roulette. Yeah, that's your first ever roulette nailing the number. So 14th was lucky 14 for you.
The
And
Kiwi
Lawson
came
finished
through
there.
for me when I crapped on him the most.
I was feeling pretty good about George and Isaac on my blackjack because that was 10 points for George and a point for Isaac. So I got 11 points. You went double Ferrari. So
Yes.
you had 12 for Charles, 8 for Lewis,
20.
20 points.
I wins a regular hand of blackjack, baby.
I know, you're 9-4 up in blackjack now.
Yeah.
And then I beat you in 3-card poker because I took the Oscar Lando Max hand, which wasn't the right order, but easily beat your Alonso Stroll Yuki prediction.
Hey, yeah, that didn't work. But I do get to go first on that next time, if you remember.
Yeah, you do. Don't worry, we'll do that next week when we do the Baku ones. So, yeah, standings wise, a little bit of a nibble into the lead by Lando, which is what he needs to do. I saw some stupid stuff online last week where they said, "Oh, title's over, then is it?" No, it's like if they finish first and second for the rest of the season, there's more than enough races that Lando would only need to do that like 5 or 6 times in a row and he'd be back level again. So no, it's not. He took a little nibble out, so now it's down. It's 324 plays 293. Max Verstappen up to 230. So putting a bit of daylight between him and George because we were starting to question about whether George might actually catch Max, but I don't think that's going to happen. And then we got Charles and Lewis 5th and 6th. Albon in 7th. But way down points-wise. Kimi Antonelli in 8th. Isaac Hadjar in 9th.
Love it.
And Nico Hülkenberg holds on to 10th, even though he didn't even start today. So that's our top 10 there.
A handful of podium finishers there between Isaac and then Nico.
Yeah. And then constructor-wise, McLaren with 1 million points for 617. So they can win it, apparently, next race in Baku. Ahead of Ferrari on 280, Mercedes on 260, and Red Bull on 239. Williams cementing that 5th a bit more now with some points today. Aston Martin didn't score anything. Racing Bulls now a point behind Aston Martin, so they're coming for them. Sauber 55, Haas 44, and Alpine suck on 20 points.
All Pierre's points too, by the way.
Yep.
So quick fantasy update. We're doing this fast. It's still calculating from today, from Monza. But, a couple notes. We never covered, because we did this so fast last time, the Dutch Grand Prix. And so we'll do that. But one last note. Patrick Popinski, Box 1. This is your second and final opportunity to claim the first half t-shirt. FantasyDuels.com was nice enough to say, hey, we're an expert. Let someone else win it. So, Patrick, last chance. Let us know. Dutch Grand Prix. And there were some amazing finishes here. First off, bleeding the brakes from Rhea, 267 points, nicely done. Grace's greatness number 2, Grace. She is my friend Adam's daughter. She's in 8th grade. She loves F1, and she nailed it. Finished 2nd at the Dutch Grand Prix. Congratulations, Grace. Hot gas noises derriere from Az. MF Coca from Michael. Shoes for Piastri from Nick. F1 Fantasy Tips Sigma Andy, Kachiga from Gabe, Aussie Rules F1 from Mark, Hutch 13 from Trevor, and No Fuel from Sergio in 10th. Great finishes for everybody at the Dutch Grand Prix. I have not even looked at my calculating team for Monza because in order to get out of some of my triple Aston, I still have both Aston drivers. And so while I don't have the Aston constructor, I am stuck with Fernando did not finish Alonso, and Lance, I was a lap down Stroll. So that won't help me one iota.
No, I've just looked on the app now because it's just gone to it's still probably provisional, but I had Alonso in mine as well, and I thought, and at the moment, I came in 18th and got quite a healthy 230 points, although it's provisional, and you had 226. So we'll see.
We have seen these changed, so that's not.
Oh yeah, we have. Which is I'm not going to read out anything else. So I think Hadjar must have scored me a decent amount of points for all his overtakes to get up to 10th, and I had Ferrari and McLaren constructors. So we shall see.
All right. That is the Monza, the Italian Grand Prix. We will do the fantasy update next week for that, and we'll preview Baku, which is in 2 weeks' time. And time, by the way, it's a 6 a.m. Central race. Damn, that's going to be early, but I look forward to it. I love Baku. I'll wake up early for Baku. I know it hasn't given us the greatest racing the last couple years, and every year I go in like Charlie Brown, excited for Baku, and every year Lucy pulls the football away, and we end up doing a pod where I'm like, well, I still love it. Will we repeat that next, in 2 weeks' time when we recap Baku? I hope not, but I am excited to preview it next week.
Oh man, yeah, I'm looking forward to. I do like Baku. It doesn't deliver always, like you say, but it's better than having no races. So there's always that to consider. So
that is true.
Right, I think that's going to be that. Then we'll have to work out what else we try to shoehorn into next week. There's probably going to be quite a lot of fallout from the McLaren stuff. Maybe we'll have a bumper crop of news and videos plus a preview, and that can be an episode.
Sounds great. Rob, enjoy Florida. I'll be in New York. I hope everyone has a wonderful week. Be well, be safe. We'll talk to you in 1 week's time when we preview Baku. Take care, everybody.